Up next, please welcome Wellth to the stage.
Hello, everyone. My name is Max with Wellth. We're really interested in finding out why patients do the things they do on a daily basis, right? So this whole idea of moving from fee-for-service to value-based, there's been a lot of look at why plans can change their benefit design, why providers can change their workflows to get better outcomes, but the patients rarely been considered. So that's what we're really interested in, is finding out why people don't do the things they know are rationally good for them. And this is looking at the behavioral economic concepts of things like present bias and loss aversion we'll get into, but what is the real reason people don't do things they know are rationally good for them? So half of the medications aren't taken as prescribed, half of metrics aren't tracked, even when given a device. So giving someone a connected glucometer or blood pressure reading scale, that stuff isn't taken up on a regular basis, and the consequence is people don't hit their metrics, and there's very serious consequential adverse events from that. So what we're figuring out is, why don't people stick to their care plans? Once again, this is coming back to the idea of behavioral economics called present bias, where as human beings, we're very much so motivated by what is instantly gratifying in the moment. We put a lot of discount on what future events are and just feel what we do in the moment and drive our behavior based on that. So for example, a diabetic who maybe described metformin, when he takes his metformin right now, he feels no different right now. But that Snickers bar, he knows rationally has too much sugar. Tastes really good right now, and that's a choice that's often made. So how can we change this decision-making process in the moment? And what's been done so far? So if you look across the market, what you see right now is a combination of these three things, really. There's this idea of more reminders. So if we text people, if we get them emails, if we send them messages about taking their medications, they'll do that, right? But once again, this is assuming people behave rationally all the time. It just becomes a nuisance, and it's either tuned out or ignored altogether. The second idea is more education. So this idea of, if we teach people about their disease or teach them why their medication is good for them, they'll make that decision. Once again, this is assuming that we have a knowledge gap, not a behavioral gap. More rational information on top of that isn't going to move the needle. And then the last piece is this idea of connected devices. So if we give people connected glucometers, they'll use them, right? Although we see that adoption rate is very low. If we put sensors in the pills, sensors in the pill bottles, that will drive adherence, although that really just measures them what they're adhering to already, right? It doesn't actually move the needle. You often have a very expensive pill bottle that's now sitting on the shelf not being opened. So what does overcome present bias? What gets people to do that behavior in the moment? This is where we're really looking at what are the behavioral economics principles that can drive that. Simply put, we're paying patients to take their medications. Sounds really simple, although it's very nuanced in its structure. First of all, you have to get their amount right. So too little, people don't pay attention, they don't enroll. If you pay too much, you actually crowd out that intrinsic motivation. So the amount is very important. There's a sweet spot for each disease and socioeconomic status. What's more important than the actual amount is the structure. So once again, we're using loss aversion wherever possible. So instead of a gain incentive, we want to take away or have the threat of losing money for not checking in to adhere daily. And then the last piece is we want to create really long, sticky, lasting behaviors. So this idea of creating a repeatable trigger behavior reward on a daily basis to really drive home this habit and make it a lifelong habit that sticks with the patient throughout their life. So here's an example of how this works. So here's our patient Roy, his heart failure. We're always endowing the progress up front, right? So this is the endowment effect in play, another behavioral economic principle. This is what Richard Thaler won the Nobel Prize for in 2017. We're saying to this patient, this is your money to lose. Every day you miss a check-in, we're taking away $2 of those dollars. Each morning, he's going to get a notification on his smartphone, take a photo of your medication now to keep your $2 for the day. Simply opens the app, places the pills in his hand, takes the photo, and then gets that instantaneous, immediate feedback. Great job. You've kept your $2 for the day. Oh, by the way, you've unlocked a streak of 20 in the row. And that is, this great intrinsic reward of high fives from your grandson. So layering in that intrinsic motivation to supplement the extrinsic motivation of the money. So these are the results we've seen so far across the board. So I won't dive into too much detail here, but the way to read this is each dot represents an individual. The darker the dot, the more care tasks per day. So multiple medications, as I mentioned, glucometer readings, et cetera. What's really interesting is even with the darker dots, you still see this real high level of adherence for those members. And this is across disease states like diabetes, CHF, COPD, AMI, all different types of disease states, as well as clinical settings and tasks. Few organizations working with right now, and be happy to talk with you guys a little bit more. Thank you.
So the question is, can patients download the app on their own, or do they have to is it only available through their clients?
Right, so today it is available through the client, as the client is the one who's invested in the actual outcome. However, we are experimenting with more use cases where we're having the patients take more control and responsibility in this. So one of the ideas is a parent-sponsored program for pediatric asthma, things like that.